again, you can pick out if you're in a small studio, large studio, big venue, small venue, live, you know, all of that is available to you. All you have to do is close your eyes. This is an under $200 set, right? Thousands of dollars sets sometimes can't get close to that. I am monitor-like, but fun, colored in the right places. It has the curves in all the right places, and the bumps in all the right places, and the scoops in all the right places. Hello, welcome back. Today, another one I'm super excited about, and I keep saying that, and some people take it and put it against me and say, "Oh yeah, he's super excited. The monk is always excited." You know, I got something to say to you. Music is excitement. Music is energizing. Music is life. And it's emotion, and it moves me, and if it moves me, then I'm moved. Deal with it. You know, honestly, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. So if I don't like something, I tell you. If I love something, I'm emotional about it because I should be. Okay, let's jump right into what I'm going to talk to you about today. Firstly, straight up, off the bat, one thing I'd like to say about both the PULA PaO2 and especially the Myer-Audio SLIIVO SL41 is that we're used to being pounded with HARMON tunings, with V-shapes, with bright, with super colored IMs. So if you're thinking about picking this setup, you're going to have the similar reaction to a lot of people do, and that is, I'm not sure if I like this. I never had that with the PaO2. I liked it instantly, but it's kind of funny is that this second set, not knowing its tuning, because I haven't measured it at that point, put it in my ears, and I started listening to tracks, and one track was like, this is horrible. And then the next track was like, this is fantastic. And it kind of went on like that until I understood what I was listening to. And what I was listening to was not I'm listening to the recording. And that's what I was listening to. Bad in, bad out. Great in, great out. And it took me a while to wrap my head around that. And once I did that, if I come across a track that is poorly recorded and I know that the SLIIVO is not going to play well, I just simply fast forward, and I'm not going to blame the IM for a bad recording. There is way more colored IMs that are way more forgiving. This is not that set. So just wanted you guys to be aware of how it kind of presents. It's brutally honest, really. monitor-like, and that is kind of why I keep using that term, is because you want to listen to imperfections, you want to listen to the recording and make changes. But in this case, in this IM, it is simply just going to output what you're feeding it, and that includes sources as well. So big thing to keep in mind in this set. It's in this blue case. No, it's not another PULA. This is from another AliExpress store called Myer-Audio, and I seem to be the guy that is willing to take the chance on some of these products, and I'm thrilled to be able to bring them to you. Now, this is the Myer-Audio SLIIVO SLIIVO SLIIVO. And no, this is not a PULA clone. This is something different. I asked both. They're not associated in any way. And I actually think they are truly built in a different factory as well. And I got some thoughts on that as well. So this is also a 1+4. And from Myer-Audio, called the SLIIVO and SLIIVO, and called the SL41. Now, at first, I thought this bad boy was the same as, or a clone thereof, of my beloved PA02, and it isn't. So we'll talk about that in a second. Where I couldn't confirm, I thought, and I may have been mistaken, on the actual drivers that were in the PULA PA02. When the seller came back and said they're this model and this model, I didn't know you could have that model and that model in different brands, and I assumed they were Knowles. So that's on me, and I apologize for that. I don't obviously mean to mislead anybody, but I can't prove or disprove that they are what's in the PULA PA02. Now, for the SLIIVO SL41, they did say openly that this is a 10 millimeter biodynamic diaphragm. I like biodiaphragms. It's some kind of probably a treated paper cone. And that and beryllium drivers are my favorite. 2 Knowles BAs that are customized. I don't know what that means. Either they were customized specifically for Myer-Audio, or they got some kind of tuning or something different. But they're using 2 Knowles customized for the mids. Now it says for the highs and the air, 2 customized balanced armatures. So 4 BA in total, 1 dynamic driver. Here is a few observations, and at the end of this, I'm going to do a comparison to the PULA PA02, and also just talk a little bit about, I have a sneaky suspicion that these are made in the same factory that makes Jazeer, just because that the cable is virtually exactly the same cable, except for on the SLIIVO that it has shorter 2-pin receptacle on the cable versus the as I'm looking at that, I take it back. That's funny because I love this cable, first of all, so I've got 3 of these cables. Oh, that's interesting. To the one that I have that came on my Jazeer Flame is exactly the same cable as what came on the SL41, except for one says CKLUX or VX, and the other one says Jazeer. Now, actually, go back also for a sec. Sorry, I'm backtracking here. This is also not the same 1+4 under that other brand, the CKLVX. It is similar configuration, but a different IM and a different tuning. I know Tony Arcos got another 1+4 from Myer-Audio and the CKLVX, and it had a 7mm dynamic driver in it, where and then they had the version with the 10, and now this is a different version altogether with a different tuning. Okay, the shell is not also the exact same as the Jazeera as well. A couple things to note that are different. Shell shape is virtually the same size, but a slightly different shape. And the other difference being the nozzle. As you can kind of see, the Jazeera versus, let's put them same side by side. There you go. One is bigger than the other, and the SL41 has the bigger 6.2 something millimeters. It's a big nozzle, and I think that also plays a big part into how it sounds the way it does, as well, in the combination of the tuning. Talking about sound for a second, let's jump right into that. Some observations on my time with this set. Now, I started off also on different sources, and we'll talk right about that as well. So I have the Shanling M8 warm. I have some AKs in the Josheli Labs DAX. I have an Ibasso DX170, and I just recently picked up an A&K Con Max. Absolutely love that DAP. And of course my trusty XD05 Pro with the ESS. So when I started listening to it, most of these impressions and final ones are done on the Astral and Kern. Astral and Kern? Astral, not Astral. Something's an asshole. Anyway, that's where my final impressions are. So I really like this set, apparently, on a very resolving source, and definitely plays a part. My final ear tip selection were the, seems to be one of my favorites these days, have been the Divinis velvet tips. Really like that. This is a huge nozzle end, so I kind of went one size smaller to get a deeper insertion. And the nozzle is long enough shape-wise to go fairly deep and sit flush into my ear. And I'll show you fitment here as well. I love this cable. Did I mention that? Really, really good fitment for me. This is the same cable. It's a really high quality 4-core SPC cable. The Jazeera call it the limpid cable, and absolutely tangle free. It's a beautiful cable. One of the nicest cables, and you can get it in 3.5 or 4.4 from any IM. Love it. What else do I love? Some stupid things, of course. The case itself is the same as that PULA. It's real fake pleather. And the shells themselves, the top plate comes in this bluey green red. It's primarily green and blue. And again, it's different from the PULA. PULA actually probably has a brighter looking shell faceplate, but the difference being is it's kind of a translucent light blue where you can completely see in. I also noticed that the interesting part when I was doing comparison to the Jazeeras, you can see that in the dynamic driver, they use this teeny little tube going into the nozzle, quite long, where what they did with this driver is the dynamic driver itself is much, much closer to the nozzle. It's right up front, and it uses a huge tube. So this is really well thought out, I think, the way they did it. It's tuned interestingly as well, in a good way. Some observations about the Myer-Audio SLIIVO SL41. Where I thought this IM is top of the class for lots of stuff I've listened to at any price point, where it really does a fantastic job of leaving space for not just the instruments to play in their own space in the soundstage, but vocals as well. So it's clear definition where you can have a singer singing or multiple singers, and you can pinpoint their positioning in this 3D space. Instruments could be there, could be multiple instruments, and they all seem to not be congested. Very, very open in the stage, and playing in their own space simultaneously, and it was well spaced out. Best way I can describe it. This IM is different from the PA02 in a little bit, or quite a bit, in the fact that it's more of the neutral, balanced kind of quality that I loved about the PA02, but it has more of a monitor-like ability. So when you're listening to this, I find that there is... It's not a mid-centric IM. It's not a treble head IM. It's not a bass head IM. It's a monitor-like IM where the mids are, and I'll pull up a graph, are flat. So there's no emphasis, pretty much, in most of the frequency spectrum, except for a couple spots, 2 spots in particular. One is, and I'll pull that up, is the sub bass, where there is a bit of a bass boost in the sub bass. Secondly, the place where it's boosted up is where the top of our pinna gain for our natural hearing is at 2.5K. And whoever tuned these, I think really knows what they're doing. So there is a little bit of a bass boost up until about 100 hertz, a sub bass boost. Well, no, that's actually an all bass boost, but not mid bass. And then there's that little bump at 2.5K, and then there's some full-on extension all the way, like easily to past 13, 14, 15K. Really nice. And because that energy is kind of flat with the mids, it does something to your perception of listening to spatial placements, instrument separation, air details, all of that. Now, and I'll get more into comparisons with the PA02 later. And I did mention that the Juzz Ears, the flame is the same as the, what was it called? Something 41. So that one is very, very similar to the PA02, but more upper mids and a kind of a spike around that 5K area. So some people didn't like that. There was too much upper mids. So if you ever listen to the Juzz Ears and the I think it was called the something 41, that would be, then you would like the PULA. Talking about the SL41, the SLIIVO SL41, there's less mid bass added in to this tuning And that typically isn't my favorite. I do like my mid-bass slam, but, and this is going to go into some more of the observations, because I certainly don't find this one shy in the mid-bass department at all. Even though in the PULA PaO2, there's probably about 5 dBs a difference in the, 150, 100 frequency range. You don't miss it too much. In fact, I don't miss it at all, and it just makes it a less colored sound. This IM is incredibly resolving. Less so with the warmer sources. With the M8 and the AKMs, I found it smoothed it out, and some people will like that. But for me, I just really liked playing to its strength, and this is a resolving monitor like I am, and let's go to town, okay? And it kind of reminded me a bit, and I'll pull up a graph of that too, of the Awful P8. I was lukewarm on that one. I knew what they were going for. They were going for, again, another monitor-like tuning, but I just found it boring as ass and sold it right after I bought it. Burned it in, did my review, and sold it because it just didn't move me emotionally. It didn't have enough. It didn't have any special sauce. And maybe it was too monitor-like, but honestly, it sounded like some cheap drivers, and it just didn't move me. And it was pricey. It wasn't that cheap either, right? So the source is definitely the ESS was very good. There's no glare with the ESS DAC for either one on the X-Duo XDO5. And I liked it definitely better on a more resolving source for sure. So having a monitor-like tuning, what does that mean? Well, if you've watched my Plunge Audio Unity video, you'll see that one is incredibly ruler flat. Now with that IM, more than any other IM I've ever listened to, whatever you put in came out. And it's like your soul, right? It has extremely low colorization. So bad recordings sound like bad recordings. Great recordings sound fantastic. You're rewarded with great, right? Sounds the same. Great recordings sound the same. They sound great. Add to that note, where there is bass in the track, it is reproduced with a natural organicness, so nothing is too boosted. Now this does have a bit of a sub-bass boost to it above the mids, but that really only comes into play with music that has sub-bass boost, and it's just like it's like hitting the nitrous bottle. Is really what happening. And it's really hard to reproduce those really, really low notes in those tracks. There's not typically a lot of information, but when there is, you listening to it in a track, you will find the SL41 to hit the nitrous bottle. And if you don't put a big smile on your face, there's something wrong. That and the scoop out of the mid-bass comparable to the PaO2, I thought, okay, maybe I'm going to miss some of that mid-bass slam, but you actually don't, or at least I didn't. There's enough mid-bass in there to make vocals, male vocals especially, sound a bit correct, like real correct. Not a bit correct, they are correct. Monitor-like. What goes in, what comes out. The recording, out. That was just some observations on this. Well, let's do some comparisons, shall we? Let's do a PaO2 versus an SL41. What is the difference? Well, they both have pretty, and I'm going to pull up my graph here, pretty fantastic treble extension. They are very close. I mean, they kind of trade off a little bit, where the PaO2 kind of peaks more around the 4200. This one peaks around 2500, which is the top of our pinna gain. And the other difference between the two is there is more mids from 150 to 1 kilohertz. There's a bit more energy there. And the other, probably the biggest difference between the PULA PaO2 tuning and the SL41 tuning is the added mid bass. Now that comes into play completely when you listen to tracks. So there's definitely more note weight and mid bass on the PaO2. So the SL41, because of that, probably not as much information there, comes out as the more resolving of the two. Better layering, being able to pick out separate instruments and details you can hear and pick up more of that information. The SL41, if you were a true vocal lover, you were going to love the female vocals, especially on this set. Male vocals sound correct. PaO2 adds some colorization and some extra energy for the lower mids and the mid bass, and it makes male vocals sound more weighted. Is it correct? It's colored. They just sound differently. The PaO2 is definitely the more colored of the two sets. The SR41 is the more tonally correct, timbre-wise one. The PaO2 slightly, because again, more of that lower mids and mid bass, it does sound warmer. But overall, both of these IMs are very balanced and very neutral sounding, with some coloration somewhere along the line in the frequency response. Mids are more natural on the SR41 by just a tad. And now I'm just being super critical here, right? Just trying to give you a good idea of what the two sound like. Stage is bigger, wider on the SR41. The PULA PaO2 is no slouch, but again, being more flatter in the mids, you seem to be able to get a bigger stage, more open and spaciousness on the SLIIVO. Micro details and dynamics also go to the SR41. Again, anytime you are flattening out that response, you will find you'll be able to pick up more micro details and nuances in the music. A being both set side by side, song, listen to one, pull out, put the other one in. You can tell that the PaO2 is adding some colorization in the mid bass and changing the tone in a good way, I think so, because that's one of the things that I gravitated towards that set. The bass is standout for me. I really love that organic sounding bass of the PULA PaO2. I enjoy the SLIIVO SL41 as well, even though it's not as colored. I like it because it's less colored. It's a different set. One of the things with the stage is that the double bass, when you're listening to that, when there's the information low, sub kind of, it really is surreal. It has a wow factor. It has texture. It has depth. And I just love the vocals, especially for female vocals on this set. One of the things with the stage, and I was listening to this song by Diana Krall, Someone Like Someone in Love. And this happened in only a few sets. And I think the PAO2 does this pretty well, but the Plunge Audio Unity at $1,000 Canadian, so $699 US, does a fantastic job of this too, where in this particular track, she sounds like she's singing on your lap to you. That's how close and intimate it sounds in stage. And then flip that over to Metallica, S&M, listening to that whole recording, that whole album. You can clearly tell that you are sitting 200 feet up in the mixing booth, and Metallica is center stage. The orchestra is playing almost all the way around them in the stage, and the sense of space and that you get, and how large and how big and how many people. You know, you got your yeller to your left, you got your guy to the right, you got some screaming banshee woman 12 rows in front of you who just flashed the band. You can pick up all of that, and it is absolutely amazing, and it's fun to hear. Even though this set is monitor-like, unlike a full P8, for me, it has colorization in a way that makes it fun. It's not completely sterile. It is still fun to listen to. And when you can hear stuff like that and pull stuff out, it's pretty cool. Now, some sets I don't like, super uber trippy 3D stage, where this one doesn't quite do it. It's more unique, and it's track by track. So again, you can pick out if you're in a small studio, large studio, big venue, small venue, live, all of that is available to you. All you have to do is close your eyes and you hear it. And this is an under $200 set, right? Thousands of dollars sets sometimes can't get close to that. So that was the big difference between the SL41 and a PAO2. And just talking about I want to talk again about a full P8. A stupid name, but that's not me. That's on them. Those two tunings were very, very close. Frequency response. Here's both of those two together. And again, the big difference between these two is the SLIIVO has more energy in the mids. It has a slight little bump in the mids. It's not so scooped out, and more energy in the bass. And that and the big one is where a full at 2.5K, there's almost about 9 dB is the difference, where the SLIIVO has this little hill for ear gain, where a full just was kind of flat across. It makes this IM monitor-like, but fun, colored in the right places. It has the curves in all the right places, and the bumps in all the right places, and the scoops in all the right places. Not that it's too scoopy or curvy. So, but it translated down to a way funner sounding IM that still maintained its neutral, balanced, monitor-like soul. If that makes any sense. It certainly does to my brain. Now, also talking about the Jazir's 41. Well, I bought the Flame version, but you can buy it also as the 41. Those two are where I really loved the Jazir Flame as well. The upper mids are they do get a bit much sometimes. And again, there's that spike at 5K. So if you're sensitive to that, it would kind of grate on your ears, and it makes a little bit more fatiguing sound. And again, scooped out a little bit in comparison in the mids, and a more kind of nice, very gentle slope into the mid bass. So the two are done differently, but if you liked the Jazir and you thought, okay, well, something I like that, but there's a couple things that are a little bit too much for me, that upper mids and the treble, you will find that the SLIIVO SL41 fixes a lot of that tuning for you. So that's how those two compare. Now, the last one I'm going to talk about is an absolute stellar set is the Plunge Audio Unity. That is, for monitor-like tuning, it doesn't get more monitor-like tuning than that set. That set is designed for musicians. And if you look at the frequency graph here, it is virtually ruler flat. The difference between the two and this one is that bass boost to 100 hertz, where it has probably about 8 dB gain over the plungies, and again has that little bit of a peak at 2.5. The plungies have kind of that too, but then it kind of rolls off a bit more in the highs. So where with the plungies, even with a very resolving source, sometimes I kind of wanted a little bit more energy up top. But because that there was no bass boost, you didn't feel like you were missing out on too much. Where I love the extra bass of the SLIIVO SL41, and I love the fact that they bounced it off with that little bit of a bump at 2.5K. The tuning is really stand out on this set. In conclusion, because I think these two bangers that have come out lately, these 4+ ones with the PULA PAO2, are breaking the mold, right? They're breaking the harmonish V's, super bass boost, super high pin gain. They're breaking that mold, and it takes a little bit, especially if you're used to listening to IMs with those kind of tunings, to actually wrap your head around the PULA. I've had a lot of people come back and say, sometimes the reaction at first wasn't like, oh, this isn't what the monk said it was. It's not, I don't know what he sees in it. And then after you're spending some time with it, you're going, all right, I get it. I understand. I totally am starting to groove with this tuning. And I'm certainly, and I still have my sets, on the beginning of my video where I'm telling you that I like the super coloredness of the DTE 900 from SoundRhyme. I like the super coloredness of my Zensmangered Ups, right? I mean, they're boosted. They are not monitor-like. They are colored. They're wearing, they're wearing a rainbow, those bad boys. And I love them for it. But I also love this set. Does this SLIIVO actually play all genres? Well, whatever goes in goes out, right? Is it sub-bass boosted? Is going to be the absolute best for rap and stuff? I guess if you wanted to listen to what it should have come out from the recording, then yes. But if you want something even more boosted, then you'd find an IEM like the Fat Frequency Scarlett Minis that are super mega boosted and colored in that fun way. So I think to answer that question is, I think, yes, they play all genres the way that I think the recording studio and if you listen to it on your studio monitors, make it sound. Do they? So they should be playing with everyone's library, but again, without so much of the colorization. Versus the PULA PAO2. If you've already bought the set, should you go buy the SL41? Is it an upgrade? No, it's not an upgrade. It is a side grade because they are tuned differently. Where the PAO2 is the more colored musical mid-bass version, and the SL41 is the more neutral, balanced monitor-like with a sub boost, but less mid-bass. So better stage, better air, better instrument separation and details with the SL41, and probably more tonally correct, where the PAO2 is the more colored fun set. So it really depends on what you're looking for. If you have a couple sets that already are, V or and you're looking for more of a neutral balance set, monitor-like tuning, the SL41 is going to be your choice. If you wanted a slightly more fun one in mid-bass, and your preferences are male vocals over female vocals, then you might want to consider the PAO2. I think at this point, for tuning-wise, where I recommended the Jazz quite a bit in the past, I don't think I will anymore, just because I think these other two sets are better tuned. And one of the things that I said about the PAO2 is when these came out, I said these are one of the best tuned IMs that I've heard. I didn't say it was the best sounding set. I said it was one of the best tunings that came out. So there is kind of I don't know again what BAs are used in the PULA PAO2, but the Knowles mids in this are excellent, especially in this application and this tuning. So again, yeah, another set I highly recommend, without breaking the bank, at $180 some US, and again, depends on what country. So us Canucks would pay about $230 for this set. You get a fantastic cable, you get a nice little case, you get your choice of termination, which is also very nice, in 4.4 or balanced or single-ended. You get a usable case that you could pocket. You get some ear tips that'll work, but again, those are one of those things that you play around with, and overall, you're going to get one hell of a awesome sounding IM and a pretty terrific value. So that is all I have to say about the SL41 for now. Thank you. Just some final thoughts about the Myer-Audio SLIIVO SL41. By the way, that name means absolutely nothing. I asked them. It's just an acronym for where they wouldn't get any trouble for patented on the name. So there you go. It actually means nothing. So just final thoughts on the SLIIVO SL41. That and overall, right? I mean, who is this for? I think this is for somebody who wants to have an IM that is more. First of all, it's neutral, it's balanced, it's brutally honest, and that you want something that is monitor-like, which means that you're not expecting any colorization in any big way. It doesn't have a huge bass boost. It doesn't have a huge treble spike. Somebody who would like lots of details, air, separation, but not boosted and not artificial. So everything very natural sounding and not colored in very much ways. There is some coloration in when it comes to the bottom end bass and comes at that little treble bump, but it is so incredibly tastefully done that I can't speak highly enough of this set. I think it's a standout set and unique again in the industry, where Again, companies like a Fool tried to do this, or like a Studio 4, but under $200 for this tuning, and extremely well done, still being incredibly musical and fun to listen to. Well done. Honestly, well done. Yeah.